Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the completed external server for the PSP craft server. But before we get into the video, did you guys know that about 57% of people who watch these videos aren't subscribed? So please, I ask you if you could go down there and check if you're subscribed or not. You can subscribe at any time, it doesn't cost you anything, and it's really free. So please go down there, hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get ready to start off and go ahead and look at what we've done so far. So right now, a few of the big changes that I've really made is that I've recolored everything so that basically you have color-coded outputs on the PSP itself. Now the PSP is off, but I can turn it back on. And either way, we aren't able to connect to the PSP server because obviously the PSP isn't on. One of the things that I've went ahead and did was I've made sure that it's basically threaded in such a way that basically the internal server and the external server do not rely on each other for anything aside from event communication. By doing this, we actually make it a lot easier on ourselves in order to actually get things done, and it's pretty simple and very efficient. This way now we can have multiple clients. I haven't actually implemented the code for multiple clients because I see no need for it right now, especially since we don't know the performance of a single client either. However, right now, basically, what I'm going to be finishing up is the entire external side of the server, which, as you know, is responsible for network communication and more stuff like that. So let's go ahead and actually start running the PSP Craft server, which let's get to focus. And now we can start the craft server, connect it to my hotspot here. I need a configuration file. Let me get that uploaded onto my PSP and I'll be right back. Alright, I just went ahead and re-added the properties.json file, which is the configuration file for the PSP server. Now that that's up, it should actually be able to load in because it now has the properties of the server that it's actually trying to run. Which, as you see, it just went to starting the server. It's going to go ahead and connect to the wireless access point. This is pretty standard, you've seen this before. And one thing that states up here is starting the internal server and starting the update thread. Both of these things are the internal server side of things, and it's actually pretty cool to see. You'll also notice that it's text colored. So, for example, green right here is debug, and then white is info. Gray is this tracing color for very, very specific things. And then we have warnings, which are orange, and errors, which are red. We shouldn't be seeing any errors here. So let's go ahead and go back to the Minecraft Java Edition instance, refresh the server. Of course, nothing's really going to be changed or nothing's really going to be different, aside from the fact that now it's loaded up right here and it's received a handshake. Everything like that is correct. The next part here is that if we join the PSP server, it's going to go ahead and go through all the actions here. Give it a second to connect, as they always do. Then it will say that I'm trying to join, and basically the entire socket will time out because there's nothing being sent between the two. Basically right now I still have to send server packets to the client, which I don't have implemented yet. But those things will be implemented with the internal server because it's critical for the client to know. Now by doing this, we're going to just go ahead and click cancel over here, which is going to disconnect us and the socket connection will be closed, and then it will be ready for continuation and stuff like that. Now this is pretty standard, and I think you guys have seen this multiple times already, but this is basically the server external is completed. And I'd like to show you, if I can, that I've went ahead and basically added every single thing into the play state. Right here is all the packets for the play state, all 33 packets. So it's going to be all of these. Each one has a packet handler, and each one also has an event that corresponds to it. This is about 200 lines of code, I think. Yes, approximately a little over 250 lines of code here just for that. And then I also have in the actual C++ file, these are all the packet handlers, and all that it does right now is do this whenever the client has sent it a message. Now, one thing that I'm going to be working on is a little bit more of the Raven client, which is going to allow us to actually connect to servers. So it's going to be the reverse situation of what I've just done, where basically it will be handling all this stuff that it gets from the server and remembering that for the client side of things. I'll be uploading a video probably tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on that time, on the external client and how that stuff is going to work there. But for now, let's get into a little bit of the overall design once again, and we're just going to be seeing what we've done and what we're planning to do. Currently, we've basically started the implementation of the internal server, but we also can do a few other things with the client as well. So as we get into all of this discussion of really where we are, the sort of architecture and what's coming next, let's take a little reminder and see where we are now in this little progress map for MCPSP. So obviously we have this external server, that's what's pretty much complete. A few things are missing, but for the most part I would consider it complete. The internal server, which doesn't really have anything yet. Moving on past that, we also have events, which is perfectly fine, that's working, and basically the event bus works as well. Going across, we're going to look here at the external client, which I would say is not complete at all or outdated. The other part is the internal client, which also is outdated and doesn't really have anything there working for it. The last sort of part here is the network, and the network sending packets. Stuff like that really does start to work, so I think that's where we're kind of at on an overall sort of block diagram. So it would look to be like half complete, but it's not necessarily. It's more like, let's say, a third complete of where my end goal is. Probably, realistically, maybe even a quarter. Going on now, let's take a look at the server and how it works. So the first thing we have is a little pipe coming in, which is going to be our network socket. This network socket is pretty much what's going to be moving packets, data, and stuff around inside of our application. The next thing, or into our application. The next thing is going to be the packet receiver, which we have, and that's going to send things to the packet handlers. Currently, both of these are working fine, and the packet handlers are going to send events over to the internal side, the internal server. It's going to be sending them onto the event bus, where an event listener and handler will go ahead and make changes. This may result in some of these packets coming back out as outgoing events, but that's something else to be discussed. Then something that's sort of just separated from all this is tick updates, which is 20 tick updates per second, which is something on the server side just to look out for. Both of these will send events back over the event bus to a packet factory, which is just something that makes up packets and sends them back over the network. And this is how we have communication between the client and the server. So basically, looking at it, network socket is complete, the packet receiver is complete, the packet handler is complete, the event sending over the event bus isn't necessarily complete. I have all the outlines for it, but not necessarily the implementation. Then we can go ahead and look at the event listener and handler, which isn't really complete, and all the stuff on the internal server isn't really complete. And then we have the events outgoing, and we don't have the packet factory working. We have packet factory methods, but not necessarily one for the play start. So let's take a look here at the client, and if we look at the client, it's going to be kind of similar here. We have a network socket coming in and out, goes to the packet receiver, which goes to the packet handler, which creates events, sends events over an event bus. This event bus goes over to an event listener, which makes changes on the client side. Also on the client side, we kind of have input coming in, which goes to input handlers, and these generate events. These events are sent to the packet factory and then sent over to the network via a network socket. So one of the things that you'll notice that as we look at this is that the two of these are really similar in how they work, and basically their model of communication is practically the same, and this communication is really just going to be going across the network. But if we were to take a look at specifically just the internal client and the internal server, all you would really need is you can cut out all this stuff in between them with the packet factories and stuff like that, and instead of dealing with all this packet stuff, it would just be a direct wire between the two of them. So now let's go ahead and look at where are we going. So Craft Server currently is going to be getting its internal server as we work on it. That's pretty much as going to be planned, and pretty much as I've stated before. But the other thing is that Raven Client, which is going to be a new sort of client, which is going to be basically the backbone of the client architecture, will be handling the internals of the client side. Basically, the idea of Raven Client is that it's going to be MCPSP at its core, but it's going to be just wrapping that up and packaging it in a nice way that will play well with our server. So let's take a quick look here at when we're going to be seeing some more progress on this. So Raven Client will be getting its external client features this week. That's pretty much my main goal. And Craft Server will begin building up a code base to accommodate communications between Java editions and eventually Raven clients as well. Basically what I want to do for version 0.2 of the PSP Craft Server is that version 0.2 is going to at least allow us to get into a world and to start breaking and placing blocks, which is the core of the game. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.